Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Can.Did Talks. As you know, this is a show that explores the story between can and did. All of us at some point of time think we can do it. A few of us actually go out there and do it. And this is a show that explores people who've done that, who've inspired people, and who've making a change in their own little ways. And talking about little ways, who I have today is someone that influences people not with big talk, not with big actions, but somebody who's been an ambassador of doing little things, or how she calls it, tiny, noticeable things. Who I have today is Emma Lloyd, personally my mentor, somebody who's transformed some of the questions that I've had in my mind about what I should do with my career. Uh, Somebody who's currently with MB People, which is a part of Mason Breeze. She's the head of experience and people strategy. She's an excellent facilitator, a fantastic coach. She's been a TEDx speaker. She's a great individual to begin with. Pleasure is all mine in inviting Emma. Welcome.
Oh, Teja, thank you so much. Thank you for a lovely introduction. But more importantly, thank you so much for giving me the chance to reconnect with you. I have so many fond memories, whether it's our time in London when I came over to India, and it's great to be able to have a conversation with you today.
Thank you. It's amazing, Emma, how I keep going, inviting people to select a coach, right? To go after, select somebody who they can be mentored by, or somebody who can coach them in their life. The importance of having a coach, whether you're CEO or just a fresher out of college. Surprisingly, you happened to me when I wasn't looking, and it's just amazing sometimes how fate puts two people together and changes one of the other's lives, right? So thank you for that, Emma. Now I know you travel around the world. You work with hundreds of professionals across the world, talking to them about leadership. Your LinkedIn posts, every single post is a learning. It gets me thinking, right, on the little things that we could do as leaders. Today we live in a difficult world around us. Is there a gap you see in leadership as you talk to so many people across the world? Is there something that organizations obviously miss? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And I think you can see so many different reports out there all the time. These are the skills this year that we need. And I think there are some common skills gaps analysis around communication. I think increasingly around emotional intelligence. What I find really interesting at the moment, though, if we look at some of the latest research, it's much more around inspiring commitment and leading employees. And it's actually interestingly got me thinking more recently that, are we missing a trick here? Are we focusing on a gap rather than actually talking about sustaining what we've got? So looking at the strengths that people have got, really harnessing those strengths rather than continually looking for, okay, what haven't we got? And I think one of the risks we have with leadership development is that if we're always looking for new knowledge rather than sustaining knowledge, we're actually wasting some of that investment. So I'm a big advocate for leaders taking the time to go, what is it that makes you so unique? What makes you great? What is it that you've been successful at? Of course, we're always looking at ways to improve that, but actually let's look within ourselves first of all. So that reflection of what are our strengths, I think is a critical element to almost take a pause rather than continually racing for the next topic, if that makes sense.
It does. And as you were speaking, I kind of realized, even when I talk to clients sometimes, Emma, the first thing they ask is, okay, what's the new thing in town? What's the buzzword in training? What's the new topic we can coach people on? And I often go back sometime and say, well, what have you done till now? And what was the result? Did you achieve, the little things we drive, something as simple as having a huddle in the morning with your team just to check how they're doing. Not around work, but how they're feeling, that we speak about so much in the sessions that we've done together as well. And yet, companies always are looking at newer topics, something that's in trend right now. I can think of artificial intelligence, agile. Well, for that to work, did you get your basics right? Uh, how successful are organizations today, you think, in terms of maintaining this balance, Emma?
I think that sometimes it's quite difficult because of the pace at which we're working, because we're always looking to evolve. And very similar to yourself there, I'm often having conversations to bring us back to the human elements, because yes, we're moving into the digital age. I understand that. Yes, AI is there about to take over. But importantly, what always we can come back to is what's the human elements that AI is going to take quite some time to catch up on. And so some of those basics around listening, being generous with our listening, kindness, empathy, positive challenge, and all of these elements take time. And interestingly, I think time is the most valuable thing that you can give to another human being. And yet, because we're working at such pace, it's almost that then we're in this quandary where we're not giving that time. So just to slow down, to be bold, to be able to say, what is it that we're doing well at, and then to be able to move forward. But as I say, it takes some courage, it takes boldness, because everything's about a KB high, everything's about the next, as you say, what's coming down the line. So I would encourage people to take that time to pause, because often it was a Formula One racing driver in the 1970s who was very famously saying that the way he won the race was by going slower, because he went slow around the corners that actually then increased his pace for the rest of the race. So when I talk about going slower, it doesn't mean I don't want to achieve or I'm not ambitious. You know me well, Teja. I'm both of those. However, sometimes we need to slow down. So the culture doesn't set us up for success in the fact that we're such a busy pace. Courage is really important to help us to then almost review and self-reflect.
Absolutely. And as you talk about slowing down, and today I see most of the training interventions across the globe are online, right? Which in itself I think reduces the effectiveness of the physical space that learning otherwise rather provides for participants to interact and all of that. Today, when I'm delivering, some of the sessions online, leadership development sessions, half of the participants don't have their cameras on, right? Which means logistically, yes, we are driving the training programs, but the connect that is there, right? So I don't see that any different to leaders, Emma, because most of them are managing this virtually now, right? Through virtual meetings like these, and most of them don't have their cameras turned on, which means they go for days without actually looking at each other, which was not the case earlier when they were working in the same office.
Yeah.
Now, how can leaders be more empathetic in this environment? Because if I remember our conversations earlier, we always talk about how leaders have to be more empathetic towards their, and that's one of the critical aspects of leadership. Today, with the virtual world where you're not able to see the other person, there is absolutely no physical connect. How can leaders be more empathetic virtually, you think?
Really interesting, actually. There's so much to unpack with what you said there. I was nodding away and agreeing. The first thing, though, I would probably just create a little bit of positive challenge around virtual training and facilitation. And I think we have a responsibility as facilitators to almost role model how can we connect virtually. We've spent years and years and years and years perfecting connection face to face. We've got to be gentle with ourselves. It's going to take some time now to this new hybrid way of working. So certainly from our point of view, and the clues in the title, obviously my role is around experience, is that I think about every eventuality in that virtual experience. When I am connected with someone for a couple of hours, what can I do that will create connection? So we use an expression, leaning in. So leaning into the learning, whether that's chat function, whether that is doing an activity, whether that's breakout rooms, whether that's thought time to think around something from a thought-provoking point of view. If we are lucky enough to have people all day, we send them something in the post. So then they've got things to open up, to almost have secret envelopes. So I only put that there as a challenge to all of us as facilitators, as learning professionals. What are we doing to create an environment that actually engages people? Because when I'm spending time with leaders, that's the first lesson. When leaders will actually say, I never realized the power of, for example, putting your camera on, or I never realized some of the functionality there, or I didn't think about that. So I think we can role model it. We then need to create an environment where leaders are able to see the benefit, to support them with it, to actually spend some time talking about it. And simple tasks. We were only last week working with a group of leaders, and using the chat function, we asked them, think of a meeting when you were connected with somebody that they were a bit distracted or you couldn't see them on screen. How did it make you feel? And the words came through, and they're really heart-wrenching to say, frustrated, unvalued, not needed, a waste of time. I then said and asked the same question to say, what about when you were really engaged, when they were fully there, they weren't on their phone, they were on camera? How did that make you feel? And of course, the words were valued, wanted, engaged, keen to do more. And by demonstrating that, quite often leaders don't realize the impact. And of course, everything we do, everything we don't do has an impact. So I think, as you said at the outset, thank you, with the TNTs, I'm a real fan of the tiny noticeable things. We need to chip away. We need to help to support people to feel that they are comfortable to be on camera, but also to talk about the benefits and to upskill them. So we've done an awful lot of virtual communication training for leaders to help them with Zoom functionality or Google Chats or whatever functionality you're using, to show them about reactions and all the little things you can do. Because, as I said at the start, let's be kind with ourselves. We've had hundreds of years perfecting face-to-face, and now, over the next however many years, we need to perfect the virtual communication as well.
Wow. The last 2 minutes, whatever you've spoken, Emma, I can create 3 half-a-day sessions just on the topics that and sell it to my clients. Wow. This is nostalgia for me, sitting on the other side for a change, listening to you deliver a session, it's all coming back, and you haven't changed, so thank you for that. I think I've known you for about 4 years now. You haven't changed a bit. Your words haven't changed a bit. But I do know, and this is something that my listeners, my viewers should know, that not all fighters in life come with gladiator-like armor, with a crown and a sword. Some people silently are amazing fighters, and you don't really realize until you go under the skin of that person or what they've gone through. Emma, I know your story, and I know you've been a fighter all your life. Not again in the template that the world puts fighters in. How much of how your childhood was, or your growing up years and much later, impact you as a leader that you are today? How much of that is directly responsible, you think?
Oh, very much. I think so much of it. So as you know, my absolute ethos is to want to make a difference to others. My wonderful parents, when they adopted me, made a difference to me. And so therefore, throughout all of my life, I have been supported and helped and loved and nourished by 2 people that made a difference. They made that choice as well. So my whole outward look in life is to just say thank you to them. Of course, last year I lost my father to COVID, and it's really important that I continue to say thank you. So whilst he may not be with us, I want to continue to really recognise that I really I'm so grateful for all of the opportunities that I had. We were lucky enough that we travelled around the world, and that was, again, my father was from a very poor family, but he decided, and he had a goal that he wanted to become a pilot. He studied hard and he did it. And I think it's really that ethos that I love, in that hard work, effort will help us towards achieving our goals. It won't always equal that, and I think it's really important that we don't create a generation of people that saying, right, if you work hard you'll get what you want. That isn't how it works. But it's about enjoying the process, learning from the process, and creating greater choices as well. I also think that, I was very fortunate with my upbringing, and I want to have that opportunity that there are lots of people out there that maybe haven't had somebody that's believed in them. So therefore, everything I do is about believing in people, seeing people's potential, understanding that under all of us, we've got untapped potential. So if I can be a small catalyst to help somebody else, then actually that serves a purpose.
Wow. Again, these are the little things that inspire me a lot about you. And you did say that, and I remember that hasn't changed as well. Your objective, your purpose, what we call your why, right? Thank you, Emma, for sharing that. And I'm sorry for your loss. It's never a good thing for to lose loved ones to something like COVID, right? And the same has been with L&D, the learning and development functions as well. A lot of changes were forced. We didn't expect this to happen. Nobody was planned for this. Do you think the definition of how people look at L&D, learning and development, or trainers or coaches, do you think that has changed in the last 1 year? And if it,
Um,
and I
yeah,
just have another part to that question. And if it did, what can trainers and coaches do differently this time, you think? So it's a two-part question, really.
Yeah, and I think actually my response probably is quite similar to sort of both elements, in that for me, if I think, so last year we were really fortunate. We worked exceptionally hard to move everything virtually. And I remember thinking, gosh, I'm being invited into people's living rooms. And this is a range of individuals. So we had leaders, we had individual contributors, we had all across industries, across the globe as well. And so firstly, I think that ability to create psychological safety is critical, because somebody's in their own home, they might be living on their own as well. So that responsibility to create an environment to challenge, but also to create support virtually, is something we really need to take seriously as a L&D professional. I also think, though, from an organizational and firm perspective, what they have been able to see is the alignment with employee engagement, resilience, being inspired. So I might be talking about a particular topic, and it may be perceived as slightly dry, but actually it's an opportunity to connect with people, to connect the dots, to check in on people. How are people doing? Creating an environment where they get to talk to other people as well. So now my thought is, I've always had it, but it's now even more so there, that it's the layer of employee engagement and connection and supporting individuals to maintain their resilience, as well as the learning, and even more important, to ensure that we're aligned to an organization's values, and so people can see where they join in, because I'm not in the office. So therefore, this connection, this learning, it's really important that it joins all those dots for me. Otherwise, there is the risk that it's just a wasted opportunity, or it can be a nice couple of hours, but actually the impact of it is reduced. Or even worse, that people aren't able to join the dots and therefore realize the importance of that company or firm investing in them regardless of a situation as well. So for me, as an L&D professional, it's even more important that we are fully focused, that we are really using all of the functionalities of Zooms and cameras and checking in, really making sure. I think the pre-communication, the post-communication is really important. So it's an experience. It's not just right, logging on, do your delivery and off you go. And importantly, we try and find out as much as we can about a company and the values and the purpose, so that we can help to join some of those dots. So for me, I think it's been a great opportunity to elevate the importance that L&D can be the beating heart of an organization if we get it right.
Absolutely, if we get it right, and that's the $1 million question. Are we doing it because we need to do it, or is there a purpose of why we're trying to drive certain programs the way we did? Fortunately, we've been together in courses that really did make a difference. I still have people that sometimes reach out to me that say, "Hey, how's Emma doing?" Right? Because of the couple of sessions that you've delivered in India, I think, especially the one in Bangalore, I think huge fans. I at least had 3 or 4 times participants come up, and because they remember that I was also in the same session. I'll say, hey, how's Emma? How are things in London? I said, you should reach out to her. You should reach out to her on LinkedIn and connect. So I know you did inspire a lot of people, me included, and you continue to do that, Emma. But I'm curious to know, who are you inspired by?
Oh gosh, that's a big question, isn't it? So I guess there's a few things, and it is people, but also things. So of course, I have to. I've already mentioned. So from a parent's point of view, my mum and my dad, and I think from such an early age, I'm inspired. I'm inspired by so many people in the fact of, I love my quotes, and so therefore quotes always are inspiring me the way that
There's
people
one
view the world.
anyway. There's one
Pardon?
you I said. The Mother Teresa quote, I think. Yeah.
Yes, it is, and actually, it's on the wall. If you were on camera now, you see on the wall behind me. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone to create many ripples. And I'm a real advocate for creating ripples. And interestingly, I think that's the second point. The thing that really inspires me, and it never ceases to amaze me, is the potential in others. So whether that is in a training room, whether it's talking to somebody for the first time or reading an article, it's that lens where I am so inspired when people are able to join those dots, or they have a light bulb moment, or suddenly when they didn't think there was a choice, they now think there's a couple of choices. And I am so inspired by other people's learning and curiosity that it makes me think, right, gosh, I want to try to find new ways to help to support that facilitation of choices. So I truly am, and that's not a sort of a get out, but other people, I don't think I've ever met anyone that I haven't been inspired by in some way or another, because my true belief is that we all have that untapped potential. Ultimately, though, the thing that inspires me is kindness. It's another favorite quote, Bob Kersey, who says, unexpected kindness is the most powerful, least costly, and most underutilized agent to change. And I truly think kindness makes the world go round. So when I see another human being kind to another human being, whether that's through word or thought or gesture, that inspires me to want to spread a little bit more kindness wherever I can go.
Wow. I really honestly was looking at a name, but this is even more. I think everybody around you inspires, is what I hear. And I also couldn't help but notice when you moved a little bit, there's ripples in that quote, and your company is called Create the Ripple, isn't it? You started a
Yeah, Yeah, so I started off with Create the Ripple. So Create the Ripple was a Twitter account, and that's where I did the TEDx talk as well. And I was fascinated with, I don't do social media other than LinkedIn. And I was curious to how do we start to create sort of a following, as it were. And I tried for many months, not very well. Just going like, I was like, why is nobody following me? And it was really interesting because it made me think about, what is it that helps me to communicate face to face? And then I started to adapt that in the digital world. So to really think about why I'm doing something, being authentic in my approach, being resilient in my approach. And suddenly it creates that sort of snowball. And very quickly you get thousands and then tens of thousands of followers. And I still, to this day, I post 2 or 3 times a week, and just my quotes, and for the sole reason, no other reason. And people have sometimes said, oh, you could make money out of that. I mean, it's not about monetizing. It is purely about just putting some positivity out there, because I do believe that when we are doing good things, then that will help the world go round. It'll come back to us at some stage.
wow. But I'm sure it'll pick up. I'm sure there will be more followers soon, Emma. As you know, and I told you this at the start, we're doing this as a part of the Women's Day week. So I'm doing this as a part of that. So before I let you go, I know you have another meeting coming up shortly. Before I let you go, Emma, you have been a wonderful daughter. I'm sure your father up there also would agree, if I had to meet him, that you've made them proud. You're an amazing mother, as much as I know about you. You've been a fantastic co-worker, fantastic trainer. If you had one opportunity to give out a message to all the women out there with similar backgrounds, who trying to put everything together for their homes, what would that one message be for women around us?
My one message would be, and there's no surprise, there's a quote attached to it, of course. People will know now. Scott Stratton said, if you are your authentic self, you'll have no competition. And as much as I've had people throughout my career, or even through schooling, saying, Emma, you're too sensitive, or Emma, you need to be a bit more serious there, or Emma, that's not important, I have stuck to my purpose and my belief, which is, and you would have seen Teja anyway, that kindness, my sensitivity, my humor, poor humor sometimes, I am just who I am. I'm always learning. I'm open to change as well, but I still come back. And if you are able to come back to that belief that I'm doing things with good intent for good reason and following that as your true north moral compass, don't tell people to do it their way. I'd encourage you wholeheartedly to do it your way.
Wow, do it your way. Something that I've associated with you as well, Emma. For the last 4 years, I've known you. Thank you for. I know you're a busy person. You're humble about it, but I do realize that. So thank you for giving me time today. Makes it means a lot to me personally. Thank you for that conversation we've had in London. Uh, you should know this. It has clarified so many things for me in my life, that it gave me so much time, because I stopped focusing on things that I shouldn't be and focus on things that I'm actually really damn good at. And to be able to confidently say that out, to say, you know what, I'm damn good at this, I'm going to stick to this. So thank you for everything, Emma. Continue to make a difference. Continue to be thankful for everything that you have, because I think that brings the best out of you. Good luck, do well, and hopefully in the next couple of years we get to meet again in London, or wherever in the world. But thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And yes, absolutely, over in London. I'm looking forward to my next trip over to India as well.
Yes, and I promised you a few places to show you around when you.
Indeed,
Yeah,
indeed.
I do remember that, but hopefully keeping up my fingers crossed as well. But Emma, thank you.
Thank you, Asia.